Dr. Philip Ozuah, President, CEO of Montefiore Einstein, a premier academic health system comprising of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine and Montefiore Health System. And he's a globally recognized physician, leader, executive, researcher, teacher, and author. He leads an organization with 10,000 physicians, 53,000 employees. He's an NIH-funded researcher and award-winning educator. In his role, he has expanded access to care. And I must mention that Montefiore Einstein has now been acclaimed as #1 heart transplant program in the United States and is now among the elite 1% NCI designated comprehensive cancer centers in the US and have ranked top 1% of the nation's hospitals. He also leads the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. So he's combining the role of what? Chief Medical Director and Provost, and the Chief Medical Director of multiple hospitals. And he receives more than $425 million in annual research awards from NIH, home to 800 MD students, 350 PhD students, 120 students in combined MD PhD, and 250 postdoctoral research fellows. Dr. Ozuah has been recognized year after year by Modern Healthcare as one of the top physician executives in the United States and is a 2-time recipient of the Academic Pediatric Association's prestigious Ray E. Helfer Award for Innovation in Medical Education. Of course, we all know he earned his medical degree from here in the College of Medicine, class of '85, and he has a master's in education from University of Southern California, Los Angeles, PhD in educational leadership and administration from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. And he had completed his pediatric internship and residency at the same place where he works. Now, this is so important. Dr. Ozuah is married to Dr. Theresa Ozuah, a pediatrician and associate professor at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. They met in training as classmates 36 years ago. And they have 3 children. Philip J., who graduated from Harvard University, works in investment banking, and is currently completing an MBA at Columbia University. They have Phoebe, who graduated from Princeton University, according to Philip's ranked #1 ranked university in the US, who holds a master's degree in bioethics from Harvard and is completing a 2nd master's degree. And Pears, also a graduate of Princeton University, completing a master's degree in artificial intelligence and computer science. I am deeply honored today to be reading the citation of my friend, classmate, and co-member of B82 group in our medical student class. When I was in office as provost, we featured a story titled, "A Good Son Deserves Another." Dr. Philip Ozuah and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine to receive $1 billion donation that will provide free tuition to medical students in perpetuity. Philip donated $1 million to the project in the belief that investing in the future of our medical education, as well as ensuring that our students have access to quality facilities, were non-negotiable. Apparently, he was only paving the way for similar, albeit greater, things to happen in his life. Truly, one good turn deserves another. And I quote from a news flash. At the age of 93, Ruth Gottsman, a widow of a prominent Wall Street financier, donated a massive $1 billion gift to the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, directing that funds be utilized to cover tuition for all future students. I announced today that Philip was God sent to me here in the college at a time of great need. In July 2022, on my way back from a class reunion in Atlanta, I was heavy in spirit and wondering how we would begin to build. I got a most unexpected message from another great classmate and friend here today, a neurosurgeon in the US, Chinyere Obasi, on July 24, 2022, and he forwarded a message from Phil, and I quote, "Madam Provost, hope your day is going well. Please find below a message I've been asked to relay to you from Professor Philip Ozuah, CEO of Montefiore Health System in New York. I'm sending the message to you in its entirety, so there's no risk of misrepresentation. Thank you and have a great day. And this is the message from Phil to Chinyere. Hello, Chinyere. Trust you're all having a great time. Would you be so kind as to give my mobile number and email contact to Provost Omibodu, and kindly inform her that I said I would welcome a chance to explore how I might support her leadership and vision. If you would find an opportunity to do that, I would be much obliged. Thanks, Phil. Philip's giving had a multiplier effect, much more than we can ever imagine. After he gave, many others were encouraged to give. People took us seriously. Distinguished our excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members here with us, I present to you Philip Ozuah, President and CEO of Montefiore Medicine, world-renowned physician, leader, executive, researcher, teacher, author, founder of a hostel block that has 88 two-bedroom units and that will house 176 students and 4 reading rooms. Thank you for the real-world difference you have made by your intervention. And I hand over the mic to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Madam Provost, former Provost. You know, I tell you, some amazing things have happened to me along the way, and some rather mysterious things have happened to me along the way, and I thought I'd share a little bit of my story with you, and calling this a medical journey. So this journey began right here. This is in the anatomy lab. By the way, I put this up for the medical students to prove that I was actually here. Okay. That's the, thank you. That's the anatomy lab. And I was here from 1979 to 1985. I was telling somebody last night, I applied to this medical school not knowing one person in the entire state of Oyo State. And somehow when the results came out, it was published in the newspapers. My name was the second name taken here. It says a lot about this medical school. And you heard this, I must shout out Dr. Obasi for helping to link me with what I consider the most famous classmate of ours, Professor Omibodu. This is her vision, and that's why we're here. So I studied here, graduated, went on, actually, this was on graduation day, and that's Professor Akinkugbe of blessed memory, Dr. Tony Rappel, Pastor Tony Rappel on the right, Dr. Elvis Peterside to my left, and there's the gentleman standing on the left over there. Thank you. So, and then National Youth Service with the Army when I studied and took the licensing exams in the US, and then went on January 1st, 1988, I applied and was accepted into the University of Southern California to pursue a master's degree, as you heard. Now, there are people who show up to the US and they have only $5 in their pocket, and you hear those stories. I showed up with $10,000 in my pocket, which is all that I had saved. My father given me some money. And the first semester at USC cost $8,500. So I had $1,500 left. I had to pay rent. And halfway through the semester, they said to me, you know, you seem to have an aptitude for this thing. Would you consider applying to the doctoral program as well, you know, the PhD program? I said, you know, sure. What I didn't know was then they said, well, there's an exam that you have to take, what's called the GRE, the Graduate Record Examination. And that exam, it's a national exam, and that exam took almost the rest of the money that I had to pay for. And so here we are. The Naira had fallen, so over a 3-year time frame. So if you had $1 million Naira, let's just say hypothetically, you know, 3 years earlier, it was worth about $1.3 million, $1.5 million even. And about 3 or 4 years later, that 1 million Naira was worth $10,000. So my father, who had all of his money, you know, he was a public, you know, servant, had all of his money in Naira. And so I said to him, I'll find my way. I knew that, you know, that he would sell his house to support me, but I couldn't do that. I said, I'll find my way. So I applied for a job. I interviewed at Tower Records. The manager said he absolutely loved me, and he said, when can you start? I said, I can start now. And he says, we need your Social Security card. And I turned that in, and stamped on it was not valid for employment because I was on a student visa. So you can only work at your school if you have a student visa, but you can't work in your first year. You can only work in the second year, and then only so many hours. So I had a choice to make. I could get some fake papers and try to work, but I thought to myself that if I ever made it in America, I can't have something criminal in my background. So I didn't do that. And I was at the end of the road. The semester was coming to an end, and I was out of money and out of options. Then I get summoned in to meet this gentleman here, Dr. Abramson, Steve Abramson, the Dean for Medical Education and the head of the program that I was in. I thought somehow they'd found out that I couldn't pay for the second semester, and they were going to tell me that I needed to withdraw. And I came in with him and Dr. Mira Walker, and I remember they sat me down and they said, you know, based on your academic grades in this first semester, and you had the highest score on the GRE that's possible to earn and that we've ever seen, and based on that, you're getting a full academic scholarship for the rest of your studies. And not just that. He said, Dr. A, you see here, wants to take you on as his postdoctoral fellow, which means that you would also earn a stipend that you could live on. That's what happened to me. And that's how I went on to finish the master's degree. That's Dr. Mira Walker on the left, who was like an angel, and Dr. Abramson and his wife, Evelyn, pretty much took me in like a son. You know, they had a son named the same as mine. They have 2 sons, both of whom have doctorates in mathematics, and they literally took me in as a 3rd son. And this is Dr. A, and I put his picture up because he saw something in me and set me on a path that led to many other things that happened. And I remember I would go visit him. He was in Los Angeles when I was in New York, and the last time I saw him, I took the 6 a.m. flight from New York. I went over to see him. He was 95 years old then, And Mrs. A had passed away a year earlier. He was lying in bed in the sort of hospital that they had in this adult living center. And he said to me, and he says, you know, Phil, my son, I'm ready to get out of here. And I'm looking at him, and he says, I hope you know, I don't mean this floor. I mean this place. I said, I know. And the nurses brought him lunch, and he said, I don't feel like eating. And I said, oh, well, Dr. A, do you mind, maybe I can feed it to you? He said, okay. And I fed him lunch, and he had the whole thing. And I stayed with him until 11 o'clock that night and took the midnight flight back to New York. And 2 hours after I landed, his son, you know, Philip, called me and said, Phil, Dad just passed away. And yeah, and so he, even in the end, he allowed me to have the gift of feeding him his last meal. And for that, I am eternally grateful. So now, while I was working on Dr. A's program as a postdoctoral fellow, that took me to another hospital, UCLA, which was on the other side of town. I would go see the cancer doctors. I would watch their rounds, what's called the tumor board, where all the cancer doctors come together and discuss the complex patients. And I would make notes on this research program about how often they use the literature versus opinion. Anyway, 6 months in, one of the doctors comes to me afterwards. Now, I would sit in the corner, not saying anything, and he says, hey, young man, who are you? I see you sitting there. And I told him, and he says, so what do you want to do? And, what kind of medicine do you want to do? And I said to him, I said, sir, I see medicine as an instrument of social justice. And he says, well, you must meet my classmate from Yale Medical School. A month later, he comes back and says, I was in New York. I had dinner with my classmate. I told her about you, and she asked me to give you this. And it was a brochure for a training program at Montefiore, and she put a note in it saying, call me. Dr. Sandy Shepard, amazing dynamic woman, talked me into taking a leave of absence to come and train in New York. So I arrived in New York August 28, 1989 at Montefiore as an intern. Some of you have heard this story. In the first month, I get a rating that says I'm unintelligent, unworthy, and unfit to be in that institution. And I got a 0 rating in all attributes, including appearance. And yes, I was talking about this last night, and I went over and said, what can I do to appear better? And the doctor said, I don't know. So I went on, but Dr. Shepard believed in me, somehow, and she offered me a job to stay on after I graduated. But there was a catch. She only had 60% of the salary line, and she said, by the way, I found out later that she tried to get the whole thing, but the hospital wouldn't give it to her. She kept saying, I have this person that I'd like to hire, and they said, okay. So I took the job on 60% pay, and on July 1st, I joined the faculty, and October, 3 months later, Dr. Shepard died. Turns out that she knew that she was dying all along, and she hid it from us, even though she was only 47 years old. And I found out later because her assistant gave me a file with my name on it, and how desperately she wanted me in place before she died. And she saw something in me. So I joined the faculty. I was in the South, Bronx, which is probably the least desirable posting if you are working at Montefiore as a young doctor. But suddenly, well, I'll tell you, I was at a faculty meeting someday, and the person who was in charge of medical students was lamenting that those who were paid to teach medical students would not take medical students because medical students slow you down if you're a busy doctor. So when it was done, I went up to her and I said, if nobody else will take the medical students, I will take them. But I don't have time for teaching, but if they come with me when I'm seeing patients, I'll take them along. I tell you this, because that's how it began for me at Montefiore. Medical students started coming, and that year, and the year after, and the year after, there became a line of medical students who want to come and train in this little remote place. They voted me the best teacher in the medical school out of 5,000 faculty members year after year after year. And people began to say, who the heck is this man? And, so, and that's how it started. Meanwhile, my goal, I never thought I was going to be, a chair or anything like that. My goal was to get to full professorial rank in the shortest possible time and to be the best doctor and the best teacher that I could be. That was it. And so I started N.S. Boyer's work on scholarship and Glassix, extension of Boyer's work, Glassix criteria for how you define scholarship. There's clear objectives, adequate preparation, appropriate methods, important results, effective presentation, reflective critique, and began to apply this, even though I did not have protected time for research. And we began to write paper after paper after paper, and we went on to publish. And some of these papers changed the field of medicine and the practice of pediatric medicine. We're, describing things that hadn't been done before. And it went on. These are just a sample, but the bottom line is 13 years later, I'm now the head of the department. And I've told this story once before, but that doctor who rated me in my first month was still there. And we'll just leave it at that. Professor and University Chairman, Physician-in-Chief of the Children's Hospital at Montefiore. So, and through God's grace, we took this unknown, unranked children's hospital, and in less than 5 years, it became one of the top-ranked children's hospitals in the country. This was a young woman. We began to do things that were the best in the country. This young woman, Alexia, her father sent me this photo. She was in our ICU for 9 months on a mechanical heart, waiting for a heart donor. And somebody has to die to donate a heart, and she couldn't move for 9 months. And this is 2 weeks after we did a heart transplant on her. So because of that, people started calling me to come and run their hospitals. And Montefiore Einstein said, no, we have a different idea. We'd like you to run this entire hospital, not just the pediatric hospital, but the entire thing. So November 5th, I was appointed president and CEO of Montefiore Einstein. And you've heard about us from many different people, but I just thought I'd show you a little bit This is our West Campus. Every building you see here is part of our hospital. This is our Children's Hospital. This is our East Campus. All the tall buildings you see are all part of our enterprise. And that's true. We have over 500 locations. I'll just show you a few of them. These are, again, everything you're seeing is a part of one of the 500 locations of Montefiore Einstein. Thank you. We also have, as you heard, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. This is the medical school. This is the research, one of the research buildings, the Price Center. And we actually have medical students. As I said, again, I put this picture to show the medical students that we do have medical students, as Provost Omigbodu said. They come in and they graduate and they go on to do wonderful things. And you heard our faculty produce, in addition to what you heard, nearly 3,300 academic papers published every year. That's how talented the faculty is. You heard about this and cracking the codes. We're also all over the region in terms of our brand. You see Montefiore Einstein. Everywhere you go in the Northeast, we're on highways, we're on buildings, we're in sports, we're in football, we're in basketball, we're in the movie theaters, and that's sort of who we are. And you heard from the provost, we see 7.5 million patients annually, and 53,000 staff members, 10,000 doctors. We remain on a growth trajectory. These are just facilities we've opened in the last year and a half. We continue to expand and to grow, and this is our future plans for the East Campus. We just signed a deal with Amazon that we believe we will actually, when I leave here and go back in 2 days, 3 days later, I'm flying to meet with the Amazon leaders, with the CEO of Amazon, and we may just be on our way to redefining the practice of healthcare. Excellence is recognized, and you heard we have the #1 heart transplant program in the US. I thought, so there's a video that we play. It's played usually before I speak to a group of staff members, a department, and it's a video that has all of our people in it. It's all real-time things that our people have done. They see themselves in it. We play it to show them what we do, to remind them of what we do every day, and then I walk on. So I'm going to bring the video up and share that with you all.
1.5 centimeters of their brain tissue. This is the day that McDonald's has been waiting for the last year. And you can see for the first time, Jaden and Anais are on 2 separate operating room tables.
Every second counts. Right-sided weakness in the face of the wire. Left hip one is open. Excellent job.
Could I be back up and running, please?
Student Center. My name is Brittany.
I'm happy to share with you that starting in August this year, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine will be tuition free.
Thank you. And now this is the part where they call me out. That's okay. That's okay. We'll stop it here. Thank you all.